Welcome to Search for Signs. My name is Gary Willing. If this information interests you, please press the like and subscribe button and press the bell for notifications. I wanted to retell a story that happened to me over 20 years ago. And it happened before I knew anything about this information. But I came across this information by stumbling across one of Benjamin Creme's books, Maitreya's Mission, Volume 2. And just like a lot of people who hear this or heard Benjamin Creme or so forth, when I first read this information in Benjamin Creme's book, Maitreya's Mission, Volume 2, I didn't know what to make of it either. And I actually thought he was crazy, right? So I didn't like it. And I remember I put the receipt in the book and I set the book on my counter in my kitchen. And my intention was to return it back to the bookstore like they would ever return a book. You know, I mean, who's to say I couldn't have read the whole thing and just wanted my money back, right? So they probably wouldn't have ever returned it anyway, but that was my intention, right? And me being as lazy as I am, so it just sat there on my counter and it just started to collect dust, and I never went and took it to the store. But I don't know how long it was after that, but then one night I picked it up, and I remember it was an evening, and I sat on my couch and I just picked it up and I started reading it, and I couldn't put it down. And I couldn't put it down. I kept reading it. And day after day after day, I'd read it. I'd read it in the morning. I'd read it in the afternoon. I'd read it on my breaks at work. I'd read it, you know, when I was waiting to do something. I mean, I just could not put this book down. And I don't know how long I read it. It was many months. And while this was going on, I got in contact with a tiny group here in Atlanta that was doing transmission meditation. And I joined their group and I started doing their meditation. They were doing it like once a week. And I remember there was copies of Share International magazine on their table, and I started picking. I was like, "What's this?" And I started reading it, and I remember flipping to the back, and there was always question and answers that Benjamin Creme would answer these questions and so forth. And then there was also this section where people were talking about their Maitreya experiences. And as I was reading it for the first time, I never once thought that I had ever had a Maitreya experience, ever. I just remember thinking, I was like, wow, this is incredible. These people are this is an incredible story, right? So it kind of added something to what Benjamin Creme was saying. So it's not just Benjamin Creme. These other people are having experiences like this, right? Like I said, and never in a million years did I think that I had ever had a Maitreya experience. And one night, I just happened to pick up the Share International magazine after meditation, and something triggered in my mind. I had a memory of an experience that I had before I knew anything about this. And it's important to know the timeline of when this happened, being before I knew anything about it, because my mind, you could have said, if this happened after I had heard about Maitreya, that I could have projected all this onto it and it was all made up. But it happened before I knew anything, so I wouldn't have thought to even think to project this on there. So the story goes like this. In September of 92, I moved to Atlanta, and I moved here in order to pursue a music career. I played bass guitar. And over several months, I struggled trying to get a job as a musician. I did gigs here or there. But anyway, I ended up falling into this one gig because I knew this drummer from my hometown who lived here in Atlanta. And he asked me if I wanted to go on tour with this group from the 70s called the 3 Degrees, because he had gotten this gig to go to Japan with them. And something fell through with their bass player. I guess he didn't have a passport or something like this, and I just happened to have my passport, so I was like, sure, I'll go, right? So that's how it kind of happened for me. And I tried out for them, and they liked the way I played, so I ended up getting the gig. And we went over there for a little while. I can't remember exactly how many weeks it was. It wasn't too long, but we played in Tokyo, we played in Osaka, we played in Fukuoka and Nara. And I remember backstage in Osaka, the group that I was with would always do 2 shows. They'd do one at 7:30 and one at 10. And we played for like an hour and a half, and that was it. And then we'd have a break. We'd sit down and have dinner and so forth, and then we'd play the late gig. And it was nice. It was really kind of fun. It was always to a sold-out crowd and stuff. So I just remember I was backstage in Osaka with everybody. And I kind of happened to be standing kind of close to where the 3 singers of the act were standing. And there was a Japanese lady that came up, and very quietly, very shyly asked for their autograph, and they signed their autograph, and that sort of. And then she looks at the drummer and she asked for his autograph, and then she looks at me and she asked me for my autograph, and I was kind of taken back. I was like, whoa, maybe I've made it now, right? That kind of thing. So I signed my name, right? And I was trying to think of what to do, and I remember I wanted to say something positive, but I didn't know any Japanese, so I quickly wrote peace, heart, and happy face, and then I signed my name really messy. And then I handed it back to this lady. And it just made my whole night that somebody finally asked this kid, me for an autograph, right? But over the years, like I said in this video that I put up about this a long time ago, that it really is there's more likelihood. It's not that she was wanting my autograph because she thought I was anything special. It was, she didn't want to make me feel uncomfortable because she was asking for their autograph. So, okay, I'll ask you for your autograph. I have no idea who you are, kid, but I'll ask you for your autograph too, right? But anyway, so I signed my name like that, and there was a few more people that asked me for my autograph throughout the tour, and I would sign it with a peace, heart, and a happy face and sign my name. Anyway, so when I got back to Atlanta, I, of course, was now out of work, and I had to find a job because I had rent to pay and all that kind of stuff, and kind of a humbling experience for me. But I remember I was at this temp agency filling out the paperwork to work at this temp agency, and the hit song for the 3 Degrees played on the Muzak. So as I'm filling out the application, I started hearing their song, and I was like, are you kidding me? Right? I just remember it just really hit me the wrong way, right? I almost cried, right? But anyway, especially coming from this tour, right? So anyway, so I ended up working these, dead-end jobs trying to find, another music job. And at this time, I was kind of a low point in my life. I was getting kind of bummed out about the fact that I wasn't playing as much music as I like, or I might do a gig here or there, and I wanted to do more or so forth, and just things weren't really working for me, right? And I needed to meet a musician friend of mine we were doing a gig, and I needed to get the playlist from him or something like this so I could practice. And I called him, he gave me directions, and because I wasn't familiar with Atlanta, and there's no such thing as Google at the time, I got totally lost. And I was miles away from where I was supposed to meet him. And the only way I could contact him was with a cell phone, or with a payphone, because there was no cell phone. So I was looking for a place to, pull in and make a cell phone call, or a payphone call. Anyway, there's this KFC in Marietta. It's called the Big Chicken. And there's this huge wooden chicken thing with a beak that opens up, and the eyes move and roll as it opens the beak and so forth, right? It's a landmark in Georgia, and it's a typical redneck landmark. But anyway, I was going to stop in there, but they were renovating the inside of it, and so you couldn't go in there and make any calls. So anyway, so I was like, oh, shoot, where can I go? And so I was getting kind of to the time where I was almost late, or maybe I was a little late. Anyway, so I saw this gas station right next to it, so I quickly pull in there, and I get out of my car, and I get my change, and I'm about to make the phone call on the payphone, and I drop the quarter in, pick up the receiver on the phone, and I look to the left, and written on black magic marker, it says, to Gary, a heart sign, a peace sign, and a happy face. Underneath it says, still alive and well. And then there was a cross, and it was signed the Christ. Now, I can tell you that when people always ask me, what did you think? You must have just been blown away by this. I really wasn't. And this is probably the reason why most people don't pick up on Maitreya being who Maitreya is, because when I didn't know anything about Maitreya, but I remember when I saw this, I remember thinking to myself, and the thought that I had was, who's Gary, man? He signs his name just like me in Japan. And then I just went on with my life. And it wasn't until I started reading this information that I started thinking back to the fact that, oh my gosh, I mean, there's no way that somebody would have known to sign their name like that, address it to me, so to speak, on a payphone, nonetheless. Because actually, my dad, when he was working, he would install payphone booths, or payphone and pedestals and stuff for the bell system. And I used to go help him out in the summertime. So it's funny that this message was written on a payphone. But so anyway, it's the things like that, and all these other people having experiences. And when I talk to my friends who know about this, and they tell me about their Maitreya experiences and so forth, it really kind of, it brings a new element to the fact of this information being real. But anyway, I wanted to share it again. Hope you have a great day.
Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.